So just what is fatwood, and could it be a valuable asset on your homestead? Stay tuned as we cover all the benefits. Hello and welcome to our new homestead project. If you're new to our channel, from this point forward, what we're going to be focusing on is starting a new homestead from scratch in our later years. And if that is a dream of yours, I would love for you to click that subscribe button, join us on our journey, and hopefully we can teach you, inspire you, and help you to keep that dream alive. So if you're new to the homesteading life and you're doing your research and that's something that you're starting out doing now, or you have that dream and you want to build a homestead, something that you probably want to be interested in is an alternative source of heat, or maybe your exclusive source of heat as well as cooking, and that's going to be wood. And you might be wondering, what is fatwood or what is lighter knot? Well, fatwood, it comes from pine. And it is a rosin infused part of that pine tree, and something causes that, and I'll cover that in just a second. But why it's so beneficial, and we're talking about wood burning stoves, a fireplace, wood cook stoves such as that, is that it is a magnificent, I think that was one of my bees, I think it is a magnificent fire starter, because rosin is very flammable. So it's a great asset to have on your homestead. And what it does is it's very flammable, of course, but it also burns longer. Now, if you think about starting a fire, a lot of times people will use newspaper, which is great. And if you have newspaper and that's your only source, of course, that's great. But fatwood, or lighter knot, as I grew up calling it, lighter knot, it is a much more efficient way to start a fire because the paper burns up fast. You know, it starts fast, but it burns up fast. Well, good lighter knot will also start fast, but it burns longer because of the density of it. So what causes something to become fatwood? What causes pine, a piece of pine, to become fatwood? Because not all pine turns into fatwood. Well, it's heating up out here too, and this is November. Welcome to the South. Pine, if it is damaged or injured in some way, it's going to have a self-protective reaction. Now, in nature, that damage can happen from a storm, and it may force a tree over, roots and all, or it could break it off at a certain point along the trunk line. And so what the pine tree is going to do in that case is it senses, if I can get the word out, it senses that it has been hurt or injured, and it's going to rush sap to that injury, that point of injury, because it wants to protect itself from pests and diseases. And if you've ever encountered pine rosin, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it's very sticky and very thick. And of course, the pest, when it covers the wound, the pest can't get through that, and also the weather, rain, can't get to it to cause rot to set in. So it's a wonderful design by God to protect the pine tree. More likely now, though, what happens is it happens in logging practices. Well, actually, let's talk about logging practices just a little bit and how it's evolved over the years. Back in the late 19th century, through the 20th century, maybe not completely to the end of the 20th century, but men logged by hand. And so what they had to do is they had to cut the logs off at waist height. And then when the tree was felled, you had a stump left that was 2 foot, maybe 3 foot tall. Well, that tree is still living. It hasn't died yet, and the roots are still pulling up nutrients. And then so it's triggered to try to preserve itself. And so it's going to rush rosin from deep in the root system up into the trunk, and then when it gets to the opening, it kind of dead end, so to speak, and so that the grain of that trunk is going to be thickly infused with the rosin, the sap, which is a rosin. Well, So fatwood back in the older logging days was very, very easy to find. It was actually a byproduct because they cooked with wood and they heated with wood. That was predominant. So it was a byproduct. They could sell the light or not, you know, so it wasn't wasted. Well, as time went on and logging practices got mechanized and got modernized, they started cutting the trees closer to the ground so that they could get more board foot lumber out of them, which from a marketing standpoint was much better, but it left the stump nearly no stump at all as far as light or not was concerned. The tree would still do that, but it may or may not rush a lot because it would come to a dead end pretty soon. Now, the best time was in the spring and early summer because that is when the sap would start running. So it was already fluid at the time, and then you damage the tree, well then it's going to fill up even quicker and more so. Once that happens, that's pretty much preserved. The part of that tree that has got that infused in it is pretty much preserved for maybe forever, and you know, relative in God's time. So, but it didn't always happen that way, and I'm going to show you right here. There's a piece of looks like a stump. Well, it's actually just a piece of a log, but I'm going to show you that a lot of times you'll see that laying on the ground, and there's plenty of it around here, and it's just rotting pine. There's no rosin in it to protect it or anything. So most likely that's either just cut off the trunk when they were logging, or it was in the wintertime and there was no, the sap was a lot slower. Now, pine tree is an evergreen, but it does go through its own phases of faster moving sap and slower moving sap. So, all right, so let's talk about how to identify it. I'm trying to keep my mic cord from getting tangled up. But what I wanted to show you right here is this is actually a stump from a long time ago that most likely this may have been pushed over by a bulldozer, or a storm had pushed the tree over and it had been cut off. But this is a huge chunk of light or not, or fatwood. Now, the other day I was out kind of scouting around and I had my knife with me. I don't have it with me right now, but I had kind of broke a piece off or dug into it and verified that it was the fatwood. It's very, very dense and very heavy, especially compared to the log that I was sitting on a while ago. If you took the same size section, I could pick that up. I cannot pick this up, so there's a big difference in it. But so you're going to look for something like this, and you can see that it's not rotten. There's nothing breaking off of it. It's very hard, so that's a clue right there that you found fatwood. Another thing that is going to clue you in is the aroma. So what I'm holding here is actually a piece of root that is rich light or not from a pine tree, and I was able to split this piece off. If you see though, the root is harder to split because it's got some twist and some turns, and it's not going to split like a straight grain wood. Hence maybe where they got the term light or not. So, but anyway, I was able to split this, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this on camera quite as well. I'm going to try to make sure I get some good still shots so that I can demonstrate it. But I split this, and one of the things that you're going to notice is the aroma. It'll be very strong. It'll of course be a pine smell, but it may be even like, if you're familiar with pine tar or turpentine, it's going to be real strong. And even this little piece right here is heavy. You can tell it's very infused with that rosin. So that's another clue. You're going to have the hardness of it, and you're also going to have the aroma. So those are two clues. So another clue is that when you suspect, you're pretty sure that you have light or not. Another thing that you will notice is that just pine laying out, maybe really dry or already started rotten, is going to be very light in color, maybe a light tan or a beige. So it's going to be very light in color, but fatwood is going to be more of an amber or a dark, maybe even a rust color. But so there are the clues. It's going to be very hard, but so it's going to be the trunk and or the roots are going to be heavy, and they're going to have just that thickness, the infusion of the rosin. It's going to smell like pine tar or turpentine. And also, you're going to see a darker grain. So those are some clues that you can look for when you go out scouting for light or not on your property. Now the ultimate test is how well it burns. That's a good stick of light or not right there. So if you're working towards your goal of having your own homestead, I hope that today's video gave you a little insight as to one of the resources that you might can be looking for. If you're new to wood burning, either in heat or in a cook stove, then you're already a little more knowledgeable as to what it takes to get that fire going. Now, if you're interested in me doing a video on starting a fire with the light or not, the Fatwood, then be sure to leave me a comment below. If you found value in this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And you know I'm going to leave you with these beautiful words. Don't ever forget that your Heavenly Father loves you. And we'll see you on the next video. God bless.